Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora. My name is Susan Stevenson and I lead the Freedom Institute of Higher Education and the New Zealand Curriculum Design Institute in New Zealand. Today I'm going to give you an overview of a workshop which is about leading new standards in equity and achievement in tertiary education. I'll be introducing you to, very briefly, an innovative but in fact very old Māori Indigenous Wellbeing Model. This workshop is entitled Leading Equitable Outcomes for Higher Education Students via Implementation of the Holistic Whare Tapa Rima-The Five-Sided Home Theoretical Model. The recent shift in higher education from a service to society paradigm to a more profit-driven corporate one has brought with it a range of challenges from students and funders. One key challenge is for higher education institutions to achieve equitable academic outcomes from an increasingly diverse student body. The aim of this workshop was to empower faculty and institutional leaders to implement the indigenous Māori Whare Tapa Rima five-sided home theoretical model. This model is designed to support students and institutions to identify 5 different dimensions that support people to understand and to improve their own well-being. The improvement in well-being is something that leads people to actually achieve at a better level. The model challenges the common one-size-fits-all approach to student services adopted by many institutions and empowers faculty, student services staff, and institutional leaders to holistically and effectively address today's students' complex needs. The workshop introduces the Indigenous philosophy, knowledges, research practices that provide positive interconnections between students, faculty, and the institution. It also addresses the viewpoint thresholds institutional leaders, faculty, and student services staff will all need to negotiate if they are to realise the equitable outcomes the Whare Tapa Rima model is capable of delivering. And finally, research methods to hone and continuously improve implementation of the model will be introduced. This particular workshop is underpinned by research that was conducted with the support of an Ako Aotearoa Best Practice Research Grant, which was awarded in 2018 and completed in 2020. The workshop is designed to help people appreciate the Indigenous model that is utilised, address common student needs utilising the model, recognise the viewpoint challenges for leaders, faculty and staff, and to formulate a Whare Tapa Rima implementation strategy for your organisation. There is also discussion of how you evaluate the effectiveness of this particular model in your institution. This is a poster setting out the 5 sides of the model. The 5 dimensions include wairua, or spiritual dimension, hinengaro, which is the intellectual and emotional, whānau, which is the social dimension, whenua, which is the cultural and ethnic dimension, and tinana, which is the physical dimension. Over time, students, staff and institutions learn about what different problems and challenges sit under these 5 dimensions and how they might be addressed by the institution, staff and students through different strategies. Each student or staff member will address these different areas in different ways according to their individual and personal needs. This research project underpinning this workshop can be accessed through the Ako Aotearoa website. This is a picture of the publication that came out of the research study. Another output of the research project was a digital film which sets out in depth and detail just how this particular model has been used working with students. In brief, there is a thresholds viewpoints readiness matrix in the research report, which encourages institutions to look at where they sit on a continuum of viewpoints, whether they sit at the left with a Western view of higher education, or whether they sit at the extreme right with an indigenous or community view. In order to implement a model like the Whare Tapa Rima model, there is a need for institutions, staff and students to move into a centre point where they understand each other's world viewpoints. This is just a slide showing the plan for the workshop, which we won't have time to go into, but the desire or focus of the workshop is simply to help institutions to begin to adopt this. In some institutions, individual staff start to implement this, and then gradually a group of other staff work with them, usually because of the very positive feedback from students. To conclude my presentation, I'm taking you to the two key references that underpin this particular workshop, and a little bit of detail about the link where you can access this information. More about the project has currently been written into a book that is being published by Springer this year. Thank you for your time.